A researcher at Dalhousie University wants to know how much your partner's drinking habits influence your own. His hypothesis is if your partner drinks more than you, your consumption will go up. Simon Sherry is a professor in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience at Dalhousie University, and he's asking for couples in the 19 to 29-year-old range to help him out with his research. Dr. Sherry is on the line now. Hi, Simon.
Hello, Preston.
What are you trying to learn here about couples and their drinking habits?
In a series of studies, we've been able to show that couples influence one another when it comes to drinking. It seems like there is a reciprocal influence where how much you drink influences how much your partner drinks, and how much your partner drinks influences how much you drink.
So which way does this mostly swing? Does it sometimes mean more drinking or less drinking among a couple?
What we've been able to show is, for example, it's 2015, and we measure your level of drinking along with your partner's level of drinking. And then up to 3 years later, we follow up with you in 2018. And what we can show is that your 2015 level of drinking predicts your 2018 level of drinking, as well as your partner's level of drinking. And the direction of influence seems to be in a positive direction. So if your wife is drinking more in 2015, it's likely to predict that she's also drinking more in 2018, and that her drinking behavior is positively impacting your own, and that you would be drinking more as well.
Why do you think that happens?
We are starting to hypothesize that drinking behavior, maybe especially binge drinking behavior, is to an extent contagious. And that begs the question, what are the mechanisms that connect one person's drinking to another person's drinking? We think there are several key drivers of that relationship. Within a long-term romantic relationship, you often want approval and acceptance. And so you may want to keep pace with your partner in terms of drinking behavior to win that approval or acceptance. Another key point here is that people who spend time together, people who repeatedly find themselves into proximity to others, these habits rub off on one another. Just merely being exposed to your partner, merely being around your partner, quite likely means their behavior has an influence on your own, including your drinking behavior. And even within a relationship, there's a level of pressure to conform, to fit in, to be part of the team.
Why do you think it doesn't work the other way, though? If one partner drinks less, why might that not reduce the other partner's drinking?
I think a really relevant notion here is what we're calling discrepancy. When you find couples who are well matched in terms of their level of drinking, there tends to be less discord, less conflict, and more satisfaction within the relationship. But if you have couples who are mismatched, wherein one member of the couple is drinking a lot and the other member of the couple is drinking a little, that tends to be a really robust predictor of friction. When you have two almost or complete teetotalers matched together, also tends to be a relatively satisfying and harmonious relationship. Unfortunately, if you have two very heavy drinking individuals, that does tend to predict a conflictual, if not disastrous, relationship. So really, there's a question of match, and if you are a misfit to your partner, it looks like there's going to be chronic friction there.
Do you think that couples here in the Maritimes behave differently when it comes to their drinking and, influencing each other's motives compared to other parts of the country?
That's a great question, and it's a question that is, to an extent, under investigation by our research team. Right now we're conducting what's called a meta-analysis, which is really just a fancy way of saying it's an empirical summary of an available scientific literature. And that meta-analysis will be able to test whether our findings are specific to certain geographical locations or whether they generalize to other places within the world. Right now, we don't know if our effects are localized or pertain across North America or even across the world. So that's an open question that we're studying right now.
Are you still looking for participants for this study?
We are absolutely looking for participants for this study and other similar studies, and any of those participants would certainly be welcome to reach out to us.
What would be expected of them? What will you ask them to do?
It would depend on the particular study. We have as many as 3 relevant studies on this, but we would provide anyone who wanted to reach out to us with a full explanation of the research, and then they could make an informed decision as to whether or not they want to participate. We have one study that involves a laboratory-based observational study of couples to see how they influence one another within a laboratory environment. We have another study that's looking at social networks, where we'll be studying one individual and as many as 30 people within their social network to see how those people you spend your time around influence your drinking behavior for better or for worse.
When you put couples in a lab and you're observing them, what do you expect to see if they're in a laboratory environment?
Well, that's a good question. Our initial studies have all been what you might call naturalistic studies, which is following people outside the artificial confines of a laboratory. There certainly is a risk that you get constrained or artificial behavior within a lab that doesn't mirror the actual conflict or the actual drinking that might occur. And then there are ethical limitations where we can let people get intoxicated, but only to a level. So in exchange for that artificiality, what we get is a tightly controlled environment where we can do random assignment and control all outside or extraneous variables. So it allows us to infer cause, but we fully concede it's in an artificial setting. So really what we're starting to get here is a program of research. We're not so much reliant on any one study, but if you start to put 5 or 6 of them together, some in a lab, some in the real world, there's a picture that's starting to converge. The couples are quite influential when it comes to each other's drinking.
All right, Simon, we'll call you back and find out how this went. Thanks for coming on the show.
Great to talk to you today, Preston.
That was Simon Sherry with the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience at Dalhousie University. And if you want to take part in his study, he's looking for couples between 19 and 29. And one of you has to be an undergraduate student. And we've tweeted out the email address.